Hello, Ryan here with another episode of Try My Darling, and today I am going to be playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game on the NES, and I am using my retro USB AVS console to play the cart, and so I am using some Game Genie codes, which is a nice feature bonus of this console. So let's go ahead and get started here. This game is based on the 1989 Konami Turtles arcade game, and came out on the NES in 1990, and it's, I think, a pretty impressive port. Has a couple new areas in it, and I think it's like definitely one of the better looking games on the system. And it's just a lot of fun to play. I mean, I remember as a kid, like most kids growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, I was a big Ninja Turtles fan. I watched the cartoon. Actually, the first video game I ever saved up for and bought with my own money was the original Ninja Turtles NES game. I think that was the first anything I ever saved up for and bought. So yeah, I was really excited. And, you know, I like that original NES game a lot, even though I was never able to finish it, still am not. Hoping to give it another go one of these days, but it's a really hard game. And yeah, but I collected the toys, I watched the cartoon, all of that, and I remember when I first played the Ninja Turtles arcade game, it blew me away. Like, it was like the best looking video game I'd ever seen at the time. Like, in my mind, it essentially looked pretty much the same as the cartoon, and it still really is like a really nice looking game. But obviously, like, I owned an NES and didn't really have any way to play games of that graphical fidelity. But yeah, eventually when this game came out on the NES, I remember renting it and being extremely excited to play it. And when I finally got it home and started playing, I definitely was not disappointed. You know, it's like I said earlier, I think this is like one of the best looking games on the NES. So, like, obviously it's not as good looking as the arcade game, but it's still a really nice looking game, and it's just a lot of fun as a brawler. Like, they nailed the controls in this NES version. You know, it plays just like the arcade game, has all the, you know, characters, which was kind of like, the enemies and stuff make sense in this game, which was kind of a bummer about the original NES Turtles game is, you know, a lot of the enemies are just kind of like weird generic 8-bit video game enemies, so doesn't really feel super turtle-y at times, you know, especially for a fan of the animated series. this game really nails the vibe of the cartoon. I'm not totally sure because I never read the original comics that the cartoon and everything was based on. I know the cover of the NES game was very much inspired by, if not created by, the original creators of the comic. So maybe like all those like weird bat things and stuff in the Turtles game, the first NES game, maybe those were from the comic. I don't actually know, but I would like to read those comics one of these days, because I know they're supposedly kind of like a parody in some ways of Frank Miller's Daredevil run, which is super interesting. Like the Foot Clan is parody of the Hand from Miller's Daredevil, which I love that Daredevil run, and I love Frank Miller's work in general, so that might be a fun read to read the early comics. But yeah, we actually, not too long ago, I think like last year or the year before, John and I recorded a podcast about like the NES and Game Boy Ninja Turtles games, a few of them. So I don't know what episode it is, but if you're interested in that, check out that episode of our podcast. Just I guess search Nintendo Fun Club Podcast Ninja Turtles, maybe? I don't know. I don't even remember what we called the episode. But yeah. And I do, on that episode in particular, I replayed and talked about the first Game Boy Ninja Turtles game, Fall of the Foot Clan, which I really like that game a lot. I think it's kind of underrated, but it's super fun. Yeah, having infinite lives in this kind of game is pretty awesome in an arcade style game, because you don't really have to worry about it having to restart levels and like continue and all that, because or having to even like replay sections, because you just sort of restart right where you were. Yeah, I'm not really sure what else to talk about here. I think I've shared like the extent of my Ninja Turtles NES stories. I do really want to. I've only briefly played the third NES Turtles game because that kind of came out towards the end of the NES's life cycle, and I think I was kind of getting, like, I was kind of not as interested in Ninja Turtles at that point, but these games are really fun, so I would like to play that at some point. It's a little bit pricey compared to the first two games, again, like being a later era NES game that happened a lot, but not as pricey as TMNT Tournament Fighters on the NES, though. I just randomly was looking at the retro section on GameStop's website, and a game, I think they were selling it for like $149, which is ridiculous. But that was like a way late era NES game, because it also came out on Super Nintendo and Genesis, so I think it was like 93, maybe 94, so it was like way towards the end of the NES's life cycle. So I guess kind of like DuckTales 2 and Rescue Rangers 2 and Bubble Bobble 2 and some of those like really late NES games. It's pretty pricey. This classic. Like that. Yeah, this is such a nice looking game. I love the way it looks. But yeah, Tournament Fighters. I've never actually played any version of that. I mean, I guess that was when like every video game went from being like a platformer to a brawler or a fighting game. But I don't know. I wonder if it's any decent, but I probably would not play the NES version. If I was to pick up a copy of that, I would definitely go with the Genesis or SNES versions, because I feel like those are actually reasonably priced. Okay, this is kind of weird with the rocket launching snowman. I don't really remember this from the cartoon, but hey, it's been a while. I wonder how well those old cartoons hold up. I'm curious. I really like a lot of the art design in the video games and the animated series. I think all the villains are pretty cool looking, and the Foot Clan is cool. I wonder how the first movie holds up. I know John's still a fan, but I've not watched it in years. But yeah, I haven't really followed Ninja Turtles stuff, like I said, for a very, very long time. I do remember getting very nostalgic when they re-released a lot of those classic figures on like the old style cards. That definitely got pretty nostalgic about those. I think a lot of those old figures are like still pretty nice looking. That original series, like, I'm pretty impressed for the time period, being like a pre McFarlane era of kids of, well, not kids toys, but just toys. I feel like, you know, McFarlane kind of changed the industry and the expectations with those with the Spawn figures. But for, you know, for pre McFarlane, they're pretty nice looking. I don't know who this guy is. Leather jacket, snow wolf dude. That's cute. Oh yeah, so I think that that snow part was one of the new additions to the NES version. I don't think that was in the arcade. I feel like one of these vans are going to like open up the doors, or this car's gonna start driving at me or something. I don't know, I sort of remember that. Maybe imagining things. So it's pretty tricky to play any of these Ninja Turtles games legitimately. These days. Oh boy, that was the car. You know, the original Ninja Turtles NES game was released on the Virtual Console on the Wii, but it was only there for like a short time, and it was at like a premium price point, like it cost more than other NES games, but it was only up for, I feel like, less than a year. And the arcade game got a port to, it was released on Xbox Live Arcade on the Xbox 360, and I actually did get that, so I do have that, but I believe that's been delisted since then. So, and then I don't think any other like classic Turtles games are available legitimately digitally these days. So you kind of have to, you know, if you want to play them legitimately, you kind of have to have the original hardware and original carts. Baxter Stockman, I think that's his name. Love all the Pizza Hut ads. I think that was a huge tie-in. I definitely remember with this game. The game came with a coupon for a free personal pan pizza, which, you know, back in the day, and I guess, well, yeah, back in the day was the reward for both buying Ninja Turtles 2 on the NES, but also for reading, I think, 50 books in the Book It program. You could also get a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut that way. Which I definitely did that. I think by the time I actually bought a copy of this game for myself, it was a used copy, so I did not get the coupon, and the coupon had probably expired anyways. So I never did get a personal pan pizza for playing this game, because like I said, I mostly rented it, but definitely got some of those personal pans for the bucket program. Which they still do. Pizza Hut still does that in elementary schools, in case you were wondering. I don't know if Ninja Turtles games still come with pizza coupons. It's probably not as exciting these days. It's if there is one, it's probably like buy this game and get a free DiGiorno's or something at the checkout at Target. But I also don't really think the last few Ninja Turtles games have been super worth buying. I do want to play the Platinum one, despite everything I've heard about it being kind of mediocre. Still would like to play it. It'd be awesome if they ported like an improved version of that to Switch. I would definitely buy that. I also still want to play the Wii Ninja Turtles game. That's like from the, I think it's called Smash Up, and it's from the like members of the Smash Brothers team, like people who worked on Smash Brothers, but also, is it like Game Arts or HAL? Well, yeah, HAL because it's Smash Brothers, but I think Game Arts from like the Lunar series, like members of that team were involved as well. I don't know, but I heard that game's pretty good. It seems like most of the movie tie-in games have been not so great over the years, but I've never actually seen the new Michael Bay Turtles movies. I saw one of his Transformers movies, and yeah, was never really interested in the Turtles side of it. Not really my jam. Getting all those extra lives. Go wrong with an auto-scrolling skateboarding level. Whoa. No, Splinter. Being taken away. It's a pretty great animation when the the Mauser gets caught on your hand. I feel like this game definitely does a great job of like bringing in some of like the humor and silliness of the Ninja Turtles. The original NES game, like, it's like a pretty like weirdly dark and gritty game. Just a little dour in comparison to this, but I mean, maybe that is because it's based on the comics-ish. I don't know. I also think like there's rumors that that game was in development as something else, and then kind of had the Ninja Turtles license slapped on it once Konami, or excuse me, Ultra Games got the license, and Turtles like sort of blew up. But it is kind of crazy how endearing this franchise is, like, even today. Like, it's... Ninja Turtles are still, like, super popular with kids and stuff. And I think it still has, like, a strong adult fan base and stuff, too, because there's, you know, like, new comics still coming out, and like I'd mentioned earlier, like the repackages of like the old figures and all that, so it's pretty cool. That's such a weird out there sort of idea, and just ridiculous and absurd idea has endeared this long. Especially considering it's based off like a really gritty and dark Daredevil run by Frank Miller. Not based off, but a parody of. I guess one thing that's kind of a bummer about the NES port is, you know, the original arcade game was super cool because, you know, not only did it look amazing, but it was also 4 players simultaneous, so you could be, you know, all four turtles if you had the crew. But the NES version is only 2 players, but still, you know, 2-player co-op games were still a treat on the NES. Yes, let's defeat the enemy's ninja magic. I agree. I think this whole stage is also new to the NES game, or exclusive to the NES game. And I'm not sure if any stages or areas were removed. or if the NES game is just more content, although not as pretty as the arcade game. It is kind of interesting that for like such an iconic American brand that the Ninja Turtles is, like, it does have such a strong Japanese connection, you know, with Konami developing like the formative video games in the series, and I don't know if the animated series was actually animated in Japan or if parts of it were, but also just like, you know, the Japanese roots of the characters and, you know, the whole ninja thing and stuff, but also I guess that makes sense going back to the original roots of the comic, because I think, you know, a big thing in the Frank Miller's Daredevil run that you know, inspired the original Turtles comics was you know, really going into like, you know, Elektra and a lot of like the Japanese roots of like the hand and that sort of stuff, which Miller also did with the Wolverines he did. Chris Claremont, I believe, takes Logan back to Japan, so it's kind of a reoccurring thing in Miller's work, I guess. He's a total weeaboo. Not really. Robot Samurai. There it is, the Technodrome. That thing's still super cool. gotta find the Technodrome? I think we found it. Wasn't that just what was happening? And isn't that where I am right now? I don't know. So much good animation in this game, though. Even like the getting zapped and the skeletal outline and all that. It's really cool. That's really annoying. I guess another fun personal Turtles fact from me. The first issue of Nintendo Power I ever got was the Ninja Turtles cover for the original game. So, yep, that started that obsession. Man, they are really sending the enemies at this point. I think this is... Let's see. Is this the last level or is there one more? Because I still have to fight both Krang and Shredder, correct? I don't remember. Boy. But Shredder is the last boss because he has that ray gun that turns you back into a normal turtle and not a teenage mutant one. Just a regular old turtle. And this is just non-stop enemies. Lots of waves of enemies on every screen at this point. still maybe have another level to go. So this guy's definitely not the last boss. I don't even know who this is. Here we go. And there's Krang. He looks kinda goofy in the NES version. Who is it, like, kind of decided is, like, the ultimate villain of the Ninja Turtles series? Is it Krang or is it Shredder? I feel like it's probably Shredder. What an interesting character design Shredder is, too. Like, he's like a weird, like, death metal, purple samurai warlord / Legion of Doom guy. I like it. A little bit of Darth Vader in there, too. Oh yeah, Dimension X. That's a thing. Well, yeah, I guess that's TMNT 2, the arcade game for the NES. It's still super fun, and it's especially fun playing with the Game Genie codes in Infinite Lives, so I did not have to replay or restart any of the levels. Yeah, good times. So yeah, I guess if you want to check out our blog and our podcast, you can check that out. NintendoFunClubPodcast.com. The podcast, Nintendo Fun Club Podcast, is on iTunes, Google Play, all of that. We release episodes about every 2 weeks. We've been doing that for about 5 years, so if you're not familiar with the show, definitely go check it out. You can also check out these videos that I do over on YouTube. Just search for Nintendo Fun Club Podcast, and there'll be a whole bunch of videos, mostly of me playing old games poorly. As for myself, you can follow me on Twitter at BrawnDwarf, BrawnDwarf. So thank you a ton for tuning in, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye.